Well, this is a interesting turn of events, isn't it? Because, our greatest strength is in the media. And this comes after billionaire Jim Ratcliffe described Britain as being colonized by migrants. In fact, have a watch yourself.
At the moment, I don't think the economy is in a good... You can't afford... you can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge levels of immigrants coming in. I mean, the UK is being colonised. It's costing too much money. It will cause... It'll cause... Well, yeah. The UK is being colonised by immigrants, really, isn't it? I mean, the population of the UK was 58 million in 2020. Now it's 70 million. That's 12 million people.
You met recently with Nigel Farage, didn't you?
I did.
Do you think that they would be a good government if they were to win the next election?
I think Nigel is an intelligent man, and I think he's got good intentions, but in a way you could say exactly the same about Keir when Keir came in.
Very interesting clip, because Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of England, described it as offensive and wrong. He says that Britain is a proud and tolerant and diverse country, and that Jim Ratcliffe should apologise because only approved messaging is allowed by the state. Now, for those of you who don't know, Keir Starmer's been in the news, and the reason he's been in the news is because of that pesky list. You know, that one with the guy in the US that's come out and it's implicating lots of people in scandals. Well, anyway, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is known to have frequented with some of the individuals on the list. And many of his own backbenchers and many of the British public are suggesting that because of his mismanagement of the UK economy and because he's just to be frank, a twat, he should just resign. But he says you'll never resign. In fact, you can watch his words yourself.
I'm fighting for them. I am their Prime Minister, and this is their government. And I will never give up on that fight. There are some people in recent days who say the Labour government should have a different fight, a fight with itself, instead of a fight for the millions of people who need us to fight for them. And I say to them, I will never walk away from the mandate I was given to change this country. I will never walk away from the people that I am charged with fighting for. And I will never walk away from the country that I love. And that is the country who I truly believe we are, a compassionate, reasonable, live and let live country, a diverse country, where given half the chance, we'll help each other out.
So anyway, the tin pot dictator who no one likes and is cancelling elections everywhere to try to keep his grip on power because everybody wants rid of him, well, he says that the views of Jim Ratcliffe are repulsive. But we have to look at those views and say, let's consider whether or not there might actually be some legitimacy in this. Well, according to Viktor Orban, that's the Prime Minister of Hungary, migration is a bit like war. Once you allow people in, then basically just destroy your country and you can never really get them out. In fact, here's what he had to say on this.
A háború való részvétel az nagyon hasonlít a migrációra. Nincs kibeugrálás. Ha egyszer belementél, benne vagy. Most szerintem az egyik ok, amire az európai vezetők szemben az amerikaiakkal nem tudnak kijönni ebből a helyzetből, az, hogy ők vitték bele magukat. Ursula nem tudja azt mondani, hogy elnézést, tévedtem. Azért nem tudja mondani, mert minden héten meghal 9000 ember. Egy hónapban 4 hét van. Az 36 000 ember. 12 hónap, 400 000 ember. Minden évben meghal, vagy végleges hadirokkantá válik. Az a 90 milliárd, amit most odaadtak, ami 2 évre finanszírozza a háborút, az gyakorlatilag 800 000 ember halálát és hadirokkantságát finanszíroz az Európai Unió.
Interestingly enough, Liz Truss also says that if the West doesn't get a grip on migration, the West is going to be finished in 10 years. Why would the West be finished in 10 years if diversity is such a strength? Here's what she had to say.
And what I am saying is unless we get a grip and change the way our countries work, the West will be finished in 10 years. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we have been threatened by left-wing ideology, whether it's excessive government spending, whether it's net zero ideology, whether it's things like DEI and ESG, whether it's Islamism. All of these things have conspired to hollow out our countries, to stagnate our growth, but also to present real threats to the way of life in the West. And I am a Trump supporter. I think that Trump getting elected last year was the first domino to be falling in the right direction in terms of saving the West, because otherwise I think that we will see China and radical Islam, two terrible partners, win against the West. That is the threat we face.
Even more interesting, Vice President J.D. Vance said that the biggest threat to Europe is the importation of millions of unvetted foreign migrants. Have a watch.
The greatest threat in Europe, and I'd say it was the greatest threat in the United States until about 30 days ago, is that you've had the leaders of the West decide that they should send millions and millions of unvetted foreign migrants into their countries. That is the biggest threat to Europe. And frankly, it remains, by the way, the biggest threat to the United States because, yes, we've got 4 years of President Trump's leadership, but I guarantee you, if the Democrats ever get power again, they're going to try to do it again.
So it would appear that everybody else understands full well that maybe migration isn't our greatest strength, and that maybe when you allow undocumented migrants from many Islamist-type countries, you get, well, Islamism. But don't take my word for it. I mean, Sadiq Khan says that Islam in the UK is just so important that they had to create a whole British Muslim trust that would basically declare what Islamophobia is and what anti-Islamic hate is, because according to him, Britain is systematically racist and is embedded in socio-economic inequalities that causes really bad outcomes. In other words, how dare Britain, a country that has notoriously in the past only had white people, have white people? I mean, why don't all the white people go to the ocean and let's import a bazillion Gamalians? I mean, that's the way to do it. Don't take my word for it. Here's what he had to say. So as you heard, London and Britain wouldn't be successful without Muslims. Now would it?
Story about the immense contribution we've made to this country, our country. Because the truth is that neither London or Britain would be as successful as they are today without us. How could you listen to the news in the morning without hearing Michelle Hussein or Faisal Islam? Or settle in for some evening telly without Nadia Hussein, Riz Ahmed or Guz Khan?
So let's actually have a look what that success may or may not look like. Well, if you've noticed of recent, a 12-year-old girl was raped in the UK by Afghani boat migrants, and that individual made national news, and they were covered in a different video I made. But what recently happened is that a school child aged 12 and 13 were stabbed by a 13-year-old fellow student of their school from doctors and engineers background. Again, don't take my word for it. Here's the clips.
I'm here today to provide an update in relation to an incident which took place at Kingsbury High School in Brent earlier. Officers were called to Bacon Lane at around 12:40 hours following a report that a 13-year-old boy had been stabbed. Armed and local officers were on scene within 13 minutes of the 999 call. On arrival, we were made aware that a 12-year-old boy had also been stabbed and the boys had been taken to hospital. We await an update on how they are, though we understand their conditions to be serious. The thoughts of everyone at the Met are with them and their loved ones. This is a fast-moving and developing investigation, but we're not currently looking for anyone else in relation to this incident. At this very early stage, we're keeping an open mind as to any motivation behind this attack. However, due to the surrounding circumstances, the investigation is now being led by officers from Counter-Terrorism Policing London.
But don't worry, it's not like we don't have scandals full of, individuals who go around the country grooming young girls and then potentially doing all sorts of perverse things to them that the state kind of wants to keep quiet. Except they do, and the way the state is now trying to do it is delete the court transcripts so that you can never actually find out what's really going on. Now, Rupert Lowe is even having to find a battle to stop the UK government bearing the truth about Britain's greatest strength, diversity. Have a watch.
Good morning, everybody. We are supporting a petition to make all court transcripts free of charge. It's simply wrong to charge for the transcripts of what is happening legally. It is effectively a paywall on justice, and that's wrong. Justice should be transparent, and it should be available to everybody free of charge. Given what we are discovering in our rape gang inquiry, which has been going on last week and will complete on Friday this week, it's absolutely essential that court transcripts of the horrors and the evils which have been happening over the last 25 years are made available to everybody so that people can actually listen to the gravity and the seriousness and the vileness of what's been going on without the authorities doing anything about it. So please sign this petition. Let's get it over 100,000 and let's have a Westminster Hall debate on the subject. Thank you very much.
But, that diversity is also bringing such cultural enrichment to the UK, like first cousin marriages. Those things that around the world are shown to cause all sorts of birth defects and retardation in individuals that will be basically mentally handicapped for the rest of their life because, reasons. Well, according to many of the Islamist-type parliamentary MPs, the UK should now allow first cousin marriages, and not allowing it would be, Islamophobia, because remember, Sadiq said they're going to set what the definition of Islamophobia is. Again, don't take my words for it, have a watch.
There are documented health risks with first cousin marriage, and I agree this is an issue. This is an issue that needs greater awareness on. Virginity testing, forced marriages, and the freedom of women forced marriage must be prevented, and the freedom of women must be protected at all times. However, the way to redress this is not to empower the state to ban adults from marrying each other, not least because I don't think it would be effective or enforceable. Instead, the matter needs to be approached as a health awareness issue and a cultural issue where women are being forced against their will to undergo marriage. In doing so, it is important to recognise for many people this is a highly sensitive issue, and in discussing it, we should try to step into the shoes of those who perhaps are not from the same culture as ours, to better understand why the practice continues to be so widespread. The reason the practice is so common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure financial foothold.
But at least they don't have apartheid. At least they don't have forms of segregation, because I'm told that that's what all the white people do. They create systematic injustices by creating whites-only areas. It's not like Muslim individuals would ever have, a Muslim-only area. I mean, have a watch of this young scholar telling us all about it. Have a watch.
Give you that. Go to your churches.
Or go to your mosques.
We do. Look at Islam. It's all over here.
Oh, exactly. So you want to conquer us?
Because this is the Muslim predominant area.
You're a genocidal freak.
Right. Right.
You want white genocide.
This is the
Fuck
Muslim
you.
predominant area, yeah? Do you get me?
Yeah.
Nah, man, I'm with the king, man.
You were bragging about colonising our town and city.
King. What colonising?
You were just bragging about Islam.
Obviously, that doesn't mean that everywhere in the UK that many of the doctors and engineers, the importation of foreigners to the country, that doesn't mean that they don't exactly assimilate and, get involved in the national British pride. I mean, apart from the fact that in places like Birmingham, they now actually have more international individuals, if you want to call it that. Yeah, those individuals love to fly the Palestinian flag, not so keen on the Union Jack, which they class as being racist. With many individuals starting to notice this, even in the media. Now, what that's leading to is that in many areas, if you do ordain to fly the Union Jack, how dare you? Well, that's racist, and the British police will stop you from doing that. Least that we upset the greatest strength of Britain. Have a watch.
Whoa. Why would you do that?
Because you're being a kid.
Now, obviously, it's not like they would go into the school system and start teaching things that were historically incompatible with British values, like, I don't know, Al-Qaeda or freedom fighters. Not terrorists, they killed people and caused 9/11 and some of the greatest atrocities in the West through terror campaigns. I mean, freedom fighters, like, I don't know, the ANC and Nelson Mandela. Yeah, have a watch.
It is absolutely ridiculous, and on one of the last slides, with the title, "Are Al-Qaeda more terrorists or freedom fighters?" even, explain your answer. And they give them sentence starters of Al-Qaeda can be seen as both terrorists to some and freedom fighters to others. In one way, Al-Qaeda are terrorists because, however, in another way, they are freedom fighters.
Yeah, we know why they're terrorists.
So they're leaving it up to 11 to 13-year-olds to decide what a terrorist is. It's insane. And the...
Don't you remember that fantastic example of freedom fighting when they flew 2 jets into the Twin Towers in New York? Freedom fighting.
It's awful.
No suggestion that was terrorism.
It's insane. And the website in which these teaching resources are on, so it's TESS, which is the country's biggest website that's used for teachers to get resources from, so people upload different stuff and state schools then use it.
I mean, it's not like they would also go into the schools and potentially try to brainwash people so that they don't have any belief in their own national culture. It's not like they send out a letter to, I don't know, schools that tell them things like Easter should be cancelled and replaced with, I don't know, Refugee Week, and how the spirit of inclusivity and diverse religious beliefs are really important so that all Christian kids anymore, and Islam is the only way. Yeah, except that actually happened in Norwood Primary School. In fact, you can see that letter written to parents on screen. But don't worry, that's not going to have a long-term impact on people in the country. It's not like it's going to brainwash many of the British citizens to stop believing in all the Palestinian nonsense. It's not like they'll go door to door saying that they want to know if you're boycotting Israeli products or if you were a Jew, and if you weren't doing it, they're going to mark it on a spreadsheet and mark you as one of the unclean. Not like that didn't happen in, I don't know, where? Brighton? I believe it's Brighton. Have a watch.
They split into small groups and head off to nearby streets.
And we're trying to get as many people as possible to sign up.
Oh, so I can't eat hummus?
Well, you can eat hummus, but just not Israeli hummus.
The group says its aim is to put economic pressure on Israel.
This is a local campaign in Brighton to boycott, divest and sanction against Israel because of the treatment of Palestinians.
But they stand accused of sowing division. Are you anti-Semitic?
No, we're anti-racist.
Anti-Zionist?
Yeah, sure.
You're anti-Zionist?
Yeah, because the Zionist ideology is an apartheid ideology in our view.
But can you understand why people would be uncomfortable if they dispute that view of you going door to door?
I mean, people might feel uncomfortable, I suppose, but it's only a one-on-one conversation. We're very polite on the door.
If someone who's Jewish opens the door, that's going to be uncomfortable for them, isn't it?
Oh, we don't think so. It's no different from the actions of a political party like the Conservative Party or the Labour Party, who also go door to door and ask people how they feel.
So yes, when your local country starts to change, you may look at it and say, well, why? Why is it changing? Well, the Muslim Brotherhood actually has the answer for you, because they tell you exactly how to get political power in Europe, how to impose Islamic rule. Have a watch.
Also going to reform the place you live in. You're going to, in other words, engage in a political endeavor in order to seize power. We believe that the only legitimate and fair authority and governance is Islam. It's a tremendously difficult political endeavor, of course. There are so many challenges. How do you properly organize? How do you properly translate the energy of these young rioters into a political dedication which could lead to Islamic rule? Prophet ﷺ made hijrah. He built Medina. Why? To conquer Mecca. There's always a political endeavor behind hijrah. It's not a neutral act.
So yes, Keir Starmer tells me that these comments by the billionaire Jim Ratcliffe are completely unacceptable, wrong, and, wrong speak. But I got to be honest to say, he kind of seems like he has a point based on the evidence. And it does look very much like it is an invasion. Also looks kind of planned. And knowing that many other individuals who aren't retarded are all sounding the alarm, which I showed you at the start of this video, one has to ask the question of whether or not Keir Starmer is just full of shit. Now, one person that does believe he's full of shit is Elon Musk, who says that he wants Britain to be greater than ever, he wants Britain to remain Britain, and Britain's going to have to work pretty hard to do that. Have a watch.
I am of primarily British heritage, British ancestry. I want Britain to be greater than it ever has been. I want Britain to remain Britain. I think there's something beautiful about being British. And what I see happening is a destruction of Britain. Initially a slow erosion, but a rapidly increasing erosion of Britain, with massive uncontrolled migration, a failure by the government to protect innocent people, including children who are getting gang raped. It's unreal. The government has failed in its duty to protect its citizens, which is a fundamental duty of government. This has got to stop. There needs to be massive government reform in Britain. And the people need to be in charge, not some bureaucracy that doesn't care.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Do you think Keir Starmer's full of shit, or do you think that Jim actually has a point? Let me know what you think in the comment section below.